Hi everybody and welcome to the video and live streaming show. My name's John Lacey and I'm joined as always by Sam Proof. Some of you, including Saeed, may have noticed we had some technical issues getting started today, so we are starting a little bit late, so forgive us for that. But today we are answering your video and live streaming questions, so if there are anything other than how to start on time, let us know in the chat and let us know where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. I probably shouldn't jinx it by pressing extra buttons, but I'm going to have a go. So if you are watching live, hit that hashtag team live, or if you're watching the replay later on, hashtag team replay. So outside of that little tech headache, and I have no idea what happened, the host name just wouldn't resolve for me for some reason, but let's not dwell on that. How has your week otherwise been, Sam, up until that moment?
Um, yeah, no, it was decent. We started the week off great. We had a 3-day weekend. We took the girls to Universal Studios and did like Harry Potter World and like a bunch of the rides, and then we did the studio tour. Where you get on like a tram and go through the studios and the back lot and see all of the stuff, and they give you the sort of history of Universal, which is the oldest film production company in California or possibly the world. I don't remember what they said. They could probably say anything they want. You know, and then this Sunday coming up, we're gonna go over to Santa Monica to the pier for Pacific Palisades, which is a much smaller theme parky type experience on a boardwalk by the ocean for basically in honor of Amanda's birthday, which is coming up on the 5th. But we actually had these tickets that we won at last year's Kitten Rescue Furball that are about to expire. And we were like, oh, thankfully they survived the fire. We can use these. We gotta go. So, it's not like we're not really theme park people, but this like 2-week period, we're cramming it all in. So
Sure. No,
it's
that sounds
good.
like a
How
lot
are
of
you doing?
fun. I'm doing
Yeah.
okay, other than freaking out and all the colorful language that we used before trying to go live.
Yep.
I don't know, like if Mercury's in the microwave, as they like to say on TikTok, or what's going on, but it was very annoying and very frustrating. But anyway, all right.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. And if you do have questions, we have assembled a few questions from around the internet, so we will be answering those as we go. But that said, if you do have any questions, if you've got any comments, let us know in the chat. We'd love to hear from you. I think I'm going to start with the one that requires me to think a little bit, just so I can do this and get it out of my system a little bit and go from there. So what I'm going to do, I'm going
Yeah.
to go full screen. I'm going to press a magical button over here. And I want to talk to you about the Elgato Prompter, and I've done an entire video on this in the past, but the really cool new feature that I wanted to talk to you about is actually voice sync. So this, you'll see what this does in a second, but it's exactly what it sounds like. So what you need to do if you do have an Elgato Prompter and you're not seeing these options yet, make sure you do upgrade the software. You do need to make sure it's sort of actively running, which is something I don't think I needed to do prior to this update. So just keep that in mind if you are working with it. Before we even get there, I should say too, the content type over here. So we've got the display, we've got the text, and we've got the chat, which is technically in beta. It's only Twitch chat, so you can sort of monitor Twitch chat. So if you're a Twitch person, that's great. I'm not really that much of a Twitch person, so I don't use that very often at all. But essentially, if I were to click the display button, in this case, we'd have OBS Inception, so I won't do that today. But essentially, it's just another window, another monitor, if you like, that you can drag and drop any kind of application onto it and go from there. But if you do select the text option, we can actually create our own scripts. And essentially, you can sort of just go and add a new one. You can copy and paste the text in from somewhere else. You can write it natively in here. But once you've downloaded that update for the scrolling options, generally speaking, what would happen is you'd have constants and you can sort of go between those. But if I click on the voice sync option, it will sort of ask which version, which microphone you want to work with, and the Rodecaster Pro Stereo is probably great for me. The thing I will say is that I did need to move this reading position a little bit because, and in fact, you can see behind me where that is. So if you're finding that, the words aren't reaching you quite far enough, I would sort of drag this more to the right. And there's also an option to highlight the text. So Now, if and again, it's probably going to be super awkward for me to try to read this out in real time live on the stream, but let's give it a go because I really want to show you what this looks like because it is genuinely really cool. You no doubt hear a lot about the importance of consistency when it comes to content creation. And broadly speaking, and this is the part at which during the live demo, it doesn't move at all. So I'm going to just pause that. I'm going to go back. Let's just try it one more time. And I know there's a lot of technical issues that I'm having today. So again, let's just try that. So hit the play button. You no doubt hear a lot about the importance of consistency when it comes to content creation. And broadly speaking, literally nothing happens. I don't know if I'm cursed at this point, Sam, but yeah, literally nothing is working for me today. So,
Oh no.
I don't know, maybe if I move away from that, and maybe it's because I'm already using the microphone in another application, but it usually works pretty well. But it's gonna make a liar out of me. So I'm actually gonna go back to here. You no doubt hear a lot about the importance. Yeah, it's there we go. It's starting to move. All right, I'm going to try this one last time, and then we're going to move on. You no doubt hear a lot about the importance of consistency when it comes to content creation. And broadly speaking, I think this is true. But there's a good chance you're much more intimately familiar with your own content than anyone in your audience. Building habits can be useful, but too much repetition can lead to boredom. Hi, I'm John Lacey, and this is Build a Presentation Muscle. All right, I'm going to leave that there, but essentially that is that update, and I think it's really cool. Again, it usually works much better when I'm not demonstrating it on the internet, so just keep that in mind. But I did want to show you that. So I know some people love teleprompters. I know some people hate them, and I guess for me, even if you're not going to be reading a script, it's a really great place of maintaining an eye level. And if I just, I've got to press another button over here to go back to the display option. But essentially, what I do, and we'll talk about this probably in the next question, Sam. But you kind of need to think about where you're looking and what you're looking at and the relative proximity of the camera. So we'll do that in a second. Just want to check in with the comments. So hello to Chocolate Quilts. Early evening in the Palisades, and Jasmine Jenny is saying, "Hey, you dude, what's up? How's it going?"
Dudes, double dudes. Hi, Jasmine.
All right, so Sam, this was something that actually came up during the week. I was doing a little bit of OBS coaching with somebody, and they asked, how do you manage all the things in terms of OBS, chat, Zoom potentially, if you're only working with one screen? And again, I know that I'm very fortunate to have at least 4 screens here currently, so I've got a lot of different places to play with, but I am curious about your general advice when it comes to managing that sort of thing, actually when you're doing a presentation.
I mean, so the beauty of OBS is that it actually gives you some ability to customize things. And if you're stuck with a single monitor, you can create what are called custom docks and just change the layout of your OBS. So if you want to do stuff like put an extra chat window into OBS, you can do that, which I totally have built into mine, even though I have a separate monitor for my chat, just so that if I'm looking to the right, I've got my chat monitor, but if I'm looking to my left to make sure OBS is working correctly, I can still kind of keep an eye on the chat. If you are multicasting, having that chat monitor be, the multi-chat feed that you can get through either something like Restream itself or StreamYard, both offer that kind of thing, or the Social Stream Ninja, which is what I traditionally use. Those are great. And yeah, there's an endless amount of things you can actually do in OBS itself if you have the ability to monitor whatever it is you're monitoring via a browser source. You can do it in OBS.
Absolutely. And I guess, I might just jump to the screen share again. So this is just a portable version of OBS I'm running in the background, just to demonstrate a few things. But the big thing that and this is what I do for this show, like I will literally right click and I will go to full screen projector, and I will actually assign that to the Elgato Prompter so I can sort of see what I'm doing up on the prompter. So essentially I'm mostly looking at the camera, which is behind that particular reflection. But the other thing, especially if you're working with multiple windows on the one screen, often the windowed projector will actually give you a preview here. So you can essentially move that around. You could put that in a corner. I guess the thing is, if I start rearranging things here, you'll see that I've actually got Microsoft Power Toys. It has this thing called Fancy Zones, and you can actually set up sort of areas on the screen to rearrange that. And I'm sure we did a demo of that a really, really long time ago, and I probably don't want to risk fate too much. But essentially, like once you've got these in different windows, and you can even sort of, as Sam says, you can sort of move these docks around. You can undock them if you like. But it's just thinking about what's actually on the screen and what you actually need to see in the moment. So, I mean, it may be a good thing to actually have the projected screen there. Again, if you're working from a Stream Deck, for example, and you've got your buttons there ready to go, then you don't need to worry too much about actually seeing the rest of OBS. So in some ways that can be really good, but it could just be a matter of having zoom on one side and your projection on the other. So there's all kinds of things that you can do. But yes, that's essentially some of the things I would think about. That said, and I realize this costs money, but as soon as you possibly can, I would look at getting some sort of second screen because it'll just make your life so much easier. I guess the other thing too
and then
is
get a third screen.
Yes. I mean, in some ways, and I guess the other thing too, we spoke about this before, but I know there's this big trend towards the really wide and sort of long and often curved monitors.
Oh, the curved monitor.
And they're great in some regards, but the great thing about having a separate screen is you can share that entire screen and you don't need to be too worried about what else is happening. Whereas, you do need to slice up one of those larger monitors in such a way and then potentially make sure you're sharing a window rather than the entire screen. So that's something that can be really useful. Okay, so Seed is saying, Sam, you need to check out the Quick Access Utility plugin. It's like a doc manager for sources and scenes in OBS. I'd love to hear more about this because I've watched a few videos on this and I don't really understand why it would be a game changer, Seed. So you can just explain it to me like I'm four. We might do that when we come back from our break. So this is the video and live streaming show. We're answering video questions. We're talking about things that have shown up in Facebook groups and on LinkedIn during the week. So we're going to come back and do that more in just a moment.
We are constantly training our cats every interaction that we have with them. Mm-hmm. So when Johan would get on my counter before, this is 10 years ago, before I was the cat expert that I am now, Johan would jump on the counter. What was the first thing I did? I'd say his name, Johan. Well, he loves that. That's a reward for him. He said, you just said my name. I would go over to him and I talk to him and be like, you can't be on the counter. Johan loves when I talk to him. Ding, that's another reward for Johan. I'd pick him up and put him on the ground, but I didn't want him to think I was mad at him. So when I'd pick him up very nicely and kiss him on the head and say, I love you, but you can't be here. I'd put him on the ground. I had just done 3 things that rewarded him for being on the counter. So I was encouraging him to continue doing that.
And that's a promo for Sam's podcast, Just Kidding Around, which you can learn more about over at cuteavalanche.com. Saeed does note that if you have hundreds of nested scenes, you'll understand. I must admit, I don't like to work that way. I try to limit my nested scenes to maybe 3 or 4, but I realize some people are doing very elaborate things. Hello to CG, who's joining us as well. Thank you so much for being here today. So we're answering video and live streaming questions. If you've got any, throw them into the chat. I'm going to just quickly look at my notes here. So, Sam, you identified this one during the week. So someone wrote, I bought a camera. I've connected it to my PC via HDMI cable, but it's still not showing up in OBS. What could be the problem?
Right. So first off, HDMI cables do not work that way. They're a one-way cable that goes from your computer to the camera to the computer. They don't. Well, now I'm confused myself. When I originally
I think
read this
where you're
question,
going is that we need some sort of video capture device. Like
yeah,
the generally speaking, unless you've got a really spec'd up computer, the HDMI ports
yeah.
on your computer are probably monitor outputs. They're not inputs.
Yes, it's a monitor. It's not going to take a camera in directly like that. So you do need something like the Elgato Cam Link, or there's just a world of capture cards out there now, and some really affordable ones can be found on Amazon for an unreasonable amount of like $30, something like that, that look exactly like the Cam Link. And from the reviews I've seen, as long as you're not trying to do 4K, they seem to do the job, especially if you're definitely doing 720. If you're doing 1080, there's some question on whether or not what they say is 1080 is actually 1080, but it's probably good enough if you just want to get going. But the Cam Link itself is maybe $100, which is strange because that thing has not changed in a decade, and it's same price it was a decade ago, basically. But yeah, there's a world of different capture cards that you can get.
It is actually a really solid option, the Elgato Cam Link, and
Yes.
occasionally it might like glitch out for a second, but I've found it to work really, really well. The only thing
Yeah,
is,
I was going to say, I think the only times I've really had problems with it was really that the cable was getting old. But yeah, it does a good job.
yeah, I think the only thing to keep in mind though is if you like it's really good for one camera to one computer.
Yes.
And it's kind of a thing about USB devices generally speaking. Like if you have more than one and they're named essentially the same thing, Windows especially can get quite confused by that. So, I mean, there are so many great options. I guess even the Neo version from Elgato. It's a little bit cheaper than usual, so that's probably worth checking out as well. So definitely think about that. So you just keep in mind that generally speaking, unless you know that your computer's definitely got a capture card, that any HDMI port, any display port is probably an output from your computer. The other things I would say though are, just make sure the camera isn't in use in any other program. And it's funny, I work with somebody and she routinely opens up her webcam before meetings just to check her lipstick. And then if she comes into the meeting without closing that window first, then she can't turn on a camera. So, sometimes you do need to be a little bit mindful of that as well. And if all else fails, just close everything down and just try again. So those are a couple of things to keep in mind. And again, I was coaching someone during the week, and I kind of convinced them, much to the chagrin of their business partner, to buy some lovely stuff, including the Cam Link and a Sony ZV-E10. And the thing about that camera is it does actually have a USB output mode, so you can kind of use it as a webcam. The only problem is it's lower resolution than the HDMI output.
Sure.
And also it has a really irritating way of working in the sense that you have to unplug the cable, turn it on, switch to a different mode, then plug the cable back in every single time.
Oh,
and it drove me
wow.
nuts. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that's not fun. Not fun
Okay.
at all.
So Saeed's got an interesting question here, Sam. I have a notebook I don't use, and I've been wondering if it would make sense to add it to my PC setup. Do you think there's any benefit to a 2 PC setup for non-gaming streams? Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think at that point it's really just a personal choice. I assume you would be using it for presentations, and in my mind, having the presentation on that notebook seems like a logical move, because then you're sharing this one screen. You're not doing anything that's from the others, the streaming side of stuff. So it sounds like a really nice way to break things up to me. But yeah, I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's really just personal choice and what you think about that. Like, what's easier for you. Trying to remember anything that I've done that would have acted that way better, but everything I've ever done has been a single, PC setup. I have at some point, for demo reasons, hooked up oh, my cat almost fell. Hooked up a laptop to the PC, but it was actually running through a capture card and just acting as a camera just to grab like one or two things. I don't even know what I used it for at this point. So yeah, I don't know if that helps at all.
And I guess that's the thing, like it could be an input into your stream, so it could be that you're capturing the screen for whatever reason, and that could be slides, that could be software demo, or it could just be another screen that you can monitor. So, I know Saeed's a big fan of sort of using Zoom and logging in twice to Zoom to give access to the Ninja chat so I can feature the comments on screen. But I guess, sometimes it's just a good opportunity to have another place where you can look to see, if anything else is happening, especially if particular software doesn't support that kind of combined chat, if you will. So, I mean,
that actually, I was going to say that reminds me of a couple of things, which is first, not the Social Stream Ninja, but like the VDO Ninja, which is what we're using, to do this chat, this call, if you will. I have done that in the past where for the Kitten Around podcast, I'll open that up as a separate sort of co-director account so that I can have a computer dedicated to recording my my guest and their feed and all of that. But also as a side note to kind of the two PC setup, cool thing about OBS, and this is something I just recently remembered and was thinking about doing so that I could do some game streams on this PC and broadcast them into the Qt Avalanche PC without actually having to connect them physically, is that OBS can actually broadcast on your local IP or your local router to another instance of OBS. I don't remember how to do it offhand, but it is possible. So you could also do it that way if you don't have a capture card or things like that.
Although, I guess the other thing I was thinking is that you could probably place that notebook somewhere else in the house.
Right.
Yeah, I know Saeed's always threatening to start a bit of a petting zoo with some alpacas and llamas. So I don't know, maybe you could have that set up with the webcam going, and you could just throw to that at some point during your Zoom meeting. I'm sure that would be good fun.
If you ever do that and have access to alpacas and want to do a 24/7 alpaca live stream, I will dedicate time on the Qt Avalanche side and give you a stream key.
Nice. So Saeed writes, using it for the chat makes sense. Zoom in browser and Social Stream Ninja on the notebook makes sense as well, I guess. We'll experiment with it. Yeah, so I mean, there's all kinds of things you can potentially do with that. So it could be fun. Yeah, give it a go and let us know how you get on. We're going to come back and answer some more questions in just a moment.
Hi, I'm John Lacey, and in Build a Presentation Muscle, I want to talk about finding your voice, refining and sharing your message, using tools and technology to share that message, and looking after yourself as a creator.
And that's a promo for my podcast, Build a Presentation Muscle, the podcast about showcasing your expertise through content creation. And you can learn more about that at johnlacey.com. Not that anyone's paying attention to me right now because there's a kitten on camera, but there we go. So this is the video and live streaming show. Today we're answering possibly some cat questions, but mostly video questions and live streaming questions. So let's go to the next one. So how can you work with PowerPoint slides in a presentation? So do you want to, I don't think this is something you do very often, Sam, but I'm curious if you have any thoughts.
Really. Yeah, I mean, it kind of goes off of what we were just talking about, which is if you had this on a second computer, you could just bring that in as basically a camera source. But if you don't, and you're working on the same computer as your PowerPoint, you bring it into OBS as either a monitor capture or a windowed capture. And I would ideally have a second monitor for this, so it was dedicated to that PowerPoint. I could full screen it, make sure I'm capturing the entirety of the experience without anything being cropped out, and then just go through it that way. And you can control the slides through like a Stream Deck and all of that. But I assume John has way more insight on this since this is something he uses every day.
It's funny, we talk about the Stream Deck, and obviously we love these devices and we use them all the time. The other thing I would say too, especially if you are working with slides, even just a slide clicker that connects to your computer via USB, you can sort of go forward and back, and that can be really, like, if you can't afford a Stream Deck, and if you don't, I guess the other thing too is you can use it via your phone app as well, which is really cool. But I just want to mention that because I think sometimes people don't know that that's a thing that they can go and buy a clicker for like $20-$30, probably even less potentially. But let me just share my screen for a second. Got to remember to press all the various buttons. So again, we're back in OBS. And I don't know that I've got a great example to demonstrate here, but I guess my favorite thing to do in terms of those PowerPoint slides is actually go in and just save them as images. Generally, I will go to File, Save As, select PNG as my file option. It'll ask you if you just want to save the one that you're currently on or all of them. If you select all of them, it will create a new folder and just shove them in there. And the great thing about that is that you kind of have an option then to either bring them in as separate scenes, and that can actually be really cool because, you know, you might have the text over here, you might put yourself in the corner over here. You can sort of rearrange where you are in each of those scenes, and maybe there are times you want to be on camera in front of your slide. Sometimes there are times you don't want to be on camera, you just want the slide to be there by itself. But of course, the other thing too is once you've exported those as PNGs, you can actually go in and add a new source and go to image slideshow. So again, these are the two options, image and image slideshow. So if you were going to do this sort of scene by scene, you can just bring it in as a separate image. If you want to bring it in as an image slideshow, you can do that as well. Give it a meaningful name, click OK. I'm not going to worry too much about the name for today. So the great thing about this slide mode, and I've done an entire video on this if you want to check it out on the Learn Live Streaming YouTube channel, but essentially we've got two modes here. We can automatically slide through things or we can go manual. And often if you've got promo banners, if you've got animated backgrounds, you can just have them doing the thing in the backgrounds, which can be really cool. But in this case, we'll probably go manual. We want to go from slide to slide when we're ready to go to the next slide. And essentially, when we come down here, we've got the ability to add our image files. And if I click on the plus sign, we've got the ability to add files or add an entire directory. And again, if you are saving from PowerPoint, it will actually give you that entire directory. So that can be really, really cool. I'm going to see if I can just think of some place where I've got something saved that might be meaningful. It's probably not here, but if we were to go back, so again, this is not really the thing I'm going to show you is not really a great example of this. Episodes, okay. I'm not even sure where I've saved those, but let's, you know, if we go in here, for example, all right, I should have had a better thing set up for this, but let's just go back to that LinkedIn folder, LinkedIn Live, wherever that was. And this is what happens when you're not terribly organized. Okay, so LinkedIn Live. Even if I just go in here and go select the folder, it'll bring these in. And now the great thing about this is we can, when we're actually on this, we can sort of go forward or back. These won't be very interesting. These are sort of static images for the podcast episode, so they're not terribly thrilling, but I just wanted to show you how you can do this. You can go back and forward. Again, think about those. If you go back into the properties, we've got the ability to either do that manually or automatic. And the minute I do that automatic, and you'll see that sort of in the background, they start sort of moving around by themselves. Again, probably not a great use if you are actually doing a presentation, but again, we can turn that off as well. We got the ability to change the transitions. So we've got things like fades, cuts, swipe, and slide. So if I go slide, for example, you'll see that happens, which might be fun. It might be distracting. You probably need to figure that out for yourself. But again, if we go into our file options and go to the settings, we can also set up hotkeys for this. So if I just search for the word slide, these actually relate to a specific source. So if you've got multiple ones of these in your presentation, you might need to do this separately. I'm just going to go right arrow, and actually that's not where I want it to be. I want it to be down in these options underneath. I'm going to delete that one. All right, don't worry about that. So we'll go next slide and we'll go previous. And that's just with the right and left cursor keys on my keyboard. And now I can sort of click those. And again, you can just imagine you're just talking through and telling people how to work with that. But again, I know it takes a little bit more effort, but I really would advocate, especially if you've got a presentation that's like your personal keynote, that you're giving to lots of different people, actually spend some time, set up different scenes for these and get into the habit of practicing those. You can share those via the virtual camera, which I realize is behind me, but that's okay. So, you can give that in Zoom or Microsoft Teams or whatever as a presentation. You can also stream it and you can record it as well. So those are a couple of things to keep in mind. And I do think that's often a really overlooked sort of option when it comes to working with slides in OBS specifically. Obviously, different programs like StreamYard and Restream Studio will have their own sort of options built in, so you can use those as well. But I think it can be really fun to think about how you want to present those. And if you create a new scene collection for each presentation, you can go back to that really simply and give that to a new audience. And I think that's kind of the power of this. You spend a little bit more time building it up front, but once you've got it to go, it can be really, really impressive, and you can bring in lots of different OBS sources in there as well.
Yeah, and I like the use of OBS to do a presentation through the slideshow, because it doesn't have to be a full screen thing. And if it is, you can put yourself in front of it using green screen or whatever, but also you can do, a half screen presentation or a quarter screen, which we actually use that functionality back at Mob Crush to do like a news-based, a tech news-based show.
Yeah,
or it would just be kind of like a little, graphic here, and as we went through the different segments, we would just switch it to a new thing. So almost like that news insert down there.
Yeah. I guess the other thing too is you can actually insert blank GIFs into the list of files. So it could be segment 1, and then you press it again, and then you have nothing behind you, and then you just. And that can be really cool. I did that actually with the banners. So again, there is a video on the YouTube channel if you want to check that out. But it is a really cool feature, and I quite like that one quite a lot.
Yeah.
Those are fighting words, Saeed, but let's go there. You can use something like Canva. You can download everything as PNGs directly and integrate the slides, just like you showed. Yeah. And to be honest, there's nothing wrong with Canva. It's not my favorite way of working, but I know lots of people do love it, and it's pretty straightforward.
Quick and easy way to make a template. Yeah,
absolutely. I guess that's the other thing about OBS. And it's sort of true of other streaming options as well. But if you're working with something that supports transparency, whether you're creating overlays or whatever, it can be really, really powerful, because then you start working within layers, and you can have things potentially in front of you and behind you, and you can create a little bit of depth in that regard as well. So, all right, let's just go to another promo. We'll come back and we'll answer another question or two.
Hey gang, if you need help running a live stream or optimizing your YouTube channel, get in touch with me. I can help you get set up with live streaming, operate your stream, strategize your YouTube channel, and so much more. Hit me up at samproof.tv, and I'll talk to you soon.
And if you do need help with those live production services, definitely reach out to Sam. You can check out his website at samproof.tv. This is the video and live streaming show. Today we're answering video and live streaming questions, as we sometimes do. Sam, this is a really interesting one that you found as well. So what's the simplest and cheapest way to stream to YouTube and Facebook simultaneously using OBS?
Yeah, sure. So, depending on what your internet is like, and as long as you have, I would say, at least 10 megabytes per second up, you can do it all through OBS. If your computer's got a strong enough CPU and GPU to handle it, you can just get the OBS plugin for multicasting, multi-streaming, and go that way. But if that seems to be too much, and you don't want to pay for a Restream or a StreamYard, I recently found a new multicasting site, which is called Beam, and it's actually beamstream.gg. It is a paid service, but they also have a sponsor that will offset the cost of the service. So if you opt into it, and I think this only happens on their side of the experience. So they are themselves a streaming platform. And when you go to stream, you select them as a destination, and your stream will be on their, on your page on their platform. And I believe that ad only shows on that page, which is probably an insignificant amount, right? Like, you're not going to have a lot of viewers there, whatever, if you're primarily going to YouTube and Facebook or whatever it is. So that is a relatively and potentially free option to do cloud multicasting. And they have a bunch of the traditional platforms built into it. So like Twitch and Facebook and YouTube, and you can do all of those. They have a few other ones. You can add custom RTMPs for no extra charge. So I think that's a great option if your computer cannot handle just multicasting everything from OBS directly.
Nice. That said, like if you do want to try and do it from OBS directly, there are a few different OBS plugins for this, and in full disclosure, I haven't used this one yet. I'm kind of keen to check it out though, because this is actually from Atom. If you go to atom.tv for their website, the multi-stream for OBS Studio 30 Plus, essentially it gives you the ability to go out to those different platforms. Again, it is going to use your computer's resources. It is going to rely on your internet connection quite a bit. The thing that's really interesting is because Atom also make the vertical plugin, that it's got these options built in. So you've got the main canvas, and again, by default, this is sort of the horizontal one and the vertical one is vertical, but the reality is you can actually change the dimensions of those to whatever you like. Yes. So, it could even be two different horizontal canvases or two vertical canvases or a square, whatever. Anyway, that's sort of neither here nor there. This does give you a lot of different options, and in some ways that's kind of amazing, but I kind of worry a little bit that it might be overwhelming for beginners. But that said, I haven't really had a play with this one yet. I kind of, at the moment, we are still going through Restream, and outside of this morning's little headache, we do mostly like it. It usually works pretty well. So that's a way, although I am definitely paying for that, and I have sort of upgraded the account that I had for that one. There's all kinds of options out there, and I guess you just got to find out what's going to work for you. But certainly give that a go. And probably try and test these out in a small way before you try and do a large event, just to make sure that they're going to work okay, that your internet connection is going to hold up. But yeah, I definitely would recommend checking that one out. Again, the multi-stream plugin from Atom is free.
Yeah, I would say the testing's a great idea. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch all offer ways to test your stream before going public to your wide audience. So you can totally do it through those to give a test. And yeah, the cool thing about the Atom plugin is that it does have the ability to customize those streams. So you're putting out something slightly different on YouTube as you are on Facebook. Maybe you have different overlays for that. Whereas the examples that I gave, you're all the same feed is being broadcast to all of your platforms in those scenarios.
And I guess we live in a really interesting time these days where you can sort of go live on YouTube horizontally and vertically at the same time with the same content. So I'm never really sure how useful that is. I imagine different people have different preferences. It's funny, the Atom vertical plugin, which I alluded to, is something that I use. I always have it running, and even with this show, I sort of capture a vertical version of just me in there, and I find it's a really good place to start repurposing clips and making TikToks and Reels and YouTube Shorts. So I mean, there's that option as well. But I guess you just got to figure out what's going to work for you, and what I guess that's probably it. Like, what is your computer and your internet connection capable of?
Right.
And I think it's this perennial thing that I always struggle with, because if you do pay for a service like Restream, you can go out to all the places that account level lets you. But I kind of wonder if there's a lot of point to having these pockets of audiences in different places. Like, I always want you to come to YouTube, if I'm being honest. I always want to push you in that direction.
Yeah. I would always tell people to make YouTube their first and foremost, unless for some reason they already have an existing community that is just massive somewhere else. I did want to say, along the lines of the YouTube short, any of the vertical platforms, pretty much, at least YouTube and TikTok, it's important to note, depending on what you're trying to achieve with your stream, that if you're trying to drive sales or click-throughs of any kind, YouTube Shorts and TikTok are really not the place to do that. If you're just trying to do something for community engagement and have fun and, you know, turn out for people on, you know, on the stream to like do whatever the live donations are, super chats, super stickers, diamonds, whatever it is on TikTok, that kind of thing, then yes, by all means, the vertical live streaming is probably a decent thing to check out. But driving any kind of click-through sales, on both of those platforms, your viewing audience does not really see the description area. And on TikTok, you don't even have clickable links. So yeah, if that is the way you're looking to go at things, I would ignore vertical altogether and just go for the traditional landscape and stream that way.
Yeah, although I don't know. There's always that ability to build awareness wherever you happen to be, and I guess that's the thing that I always come back to, is that if I've already created something and it's easy enough to just upload it and dump it everywhere, I tend to do that. And again, I don't do that with any expectation that it's going to become viral on some obscure platform, but just as a way that people might potentially see me. And hello to Insomnia Doodles, who I haven't seen for a while, but it's lovely to have your company today. Hope you're doing well. So I do want to...
Insomnia, good to see you.
Yes, absolutely. And I guess as we start to wrap up, I just want to talk briefly about bringing audio apps into OBS, because this is a question that keeps coming up in certain Facebook groups. So let me just talk about this for a second. So, and I think audio is a pretty complex thing in OBS, I would suggest, and it can be a little bit confusing. So what I kind of want to do is, if you imagine you've got some audio software that you'd like to bring into your stream, there's a couple of different ways that we can do this. And again, make sure you've got a modern version of OBS. But essentially, in our sources, we can go down and we can add a new source, and we get the application audio capture, which is technically in beta. But if I click on this one here, we can give it a name. I'm going to call it Analog Lab, because that's the software that I'm working with. It's already in use. I've probably already got it in use, so I'll just say Analog Lab 2. Again, doesn't really matter too much for our purposes. And from here, essentially all I want to do is actually find the window that I'm using, so I can click on that one and go OK. You'll see down here in the audio mixer, we do actually have this option here now. So if I press something on my MIDI keyboard, I realize the stream won't hear this, but just trust me and look at this visually. So I press that, you can see that volume is going up. If we go into the advanced audio properties and you click on the three little dots to get there, we can sort of adjust the different properties in here. So we can adjust the volume. We can potentially make this mono, but again, this relates to your overall streaming and recording settings. We can change the balance. So at the moment it's central, but you could pan it more left or more right. The big thing that is really important here is the monitoring options. So at the moment, we have these different options. So monitor off essentially means that the stream will hear it, the recording will hear it, you won't necessarily hear it. And especially for audio software, that's really, really good, because, you know, in this, and I realize I haven't shown you what this program is, and I'll show you what it is in a second, but essentially, If I were to hear the audio come from the app and then the audio come from OBS again, it's going to be this really irritating reverb delay type of thing. So we don't really want that one. We do have monitor and output that might be appropriate for some things, especially like those promo videos I play. So when they play, I hear them. Sam doesn't hear them, which is a whole other story, but we won't need to worry about that right now. And monitor only. So essentially this means you hear it and nobody else hears it. And this can be useful for like chat indications and dinging and pinging noises. So essentially monitor off is a good way to go. We can actually take different audio sources and put them on different tracks. This is kind of a more advanced feature. I'd highly recommend most people stay away from that. So just keep in mind. And I guess the other thing too is we look down at the audio here. You'll see that is getting very far into the red. We don't really want that there. I'd probably do something like -6 dB, I think is what I did previously. And that's probably a better option for us. So what I'm going to do now, and I'm going to delete the previous version. So that's just bringing in audio from an application on your computer. If you also wanted to screen share this as well, we can actually go down and add a new source, and we'll go window capture this time. So again, I should give this a meaningful name. I'm not going to right now, but essentially we've got all these different things that I can choose from. I'm going to grab the Analog Lab, and this is actually what this software looks like. And what we want to do here is there's an option here called Capture Audio, which again is technically in beta, but I'm going to click on it. And once I do that, you'll see that the window capture brings us in that audio as well. So I just wanted to mention that because that's something that comes up in the Facebook groups every single week, is people wanting to bring in often their audio digital workstation, and there's a lot of confusing information about that. So I just wanted to mention it. So let's do that. I'm just going to check in with the chat. Hello to Chantel, who's joining us today. Good morning. CG is welcoming Insomnia to Doodles. Some great chat in the comments there as well. So, so thank you, I guess, for joining us. If you do, we do have a couple of minutes left. So if you've got any burning video or live streaming questions, let me know in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. And I guess if we don't answer them today, we might answer them in the future, because we do like to do these episodes from time to time. So, yeah. Did you have anything you wanted to add there, Sam? Sorry.
No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, I guess, if we don't have any questions coming in.
Coffee and out of energy.
Go on. And we can definitely hear the cat in the background, which is always fun. But as we begin to wrap up, Sam, where can people learn more about you, find your content, watch your videos, all that good stuff?
Sure. Head over to samproof.tv. You'll find all my social links at the top left there. You can scan this little QR dealy here and get in touch with me if you need any help with live streaming or video production. And if you didn't get enough cats on stream today, head over to cuteavalanche.com for our 24/7 live stream, which is currently running a playlist of featured kittens from the past. We do have a Halloween game coming up in the month of October, and some game streams as well. So look out for those.
It is kind of scary that it's almost October. I don't know where this year has gone. It's been such a blur. But if you do want to catch up with me, head over to johnlacey.com. I got the podcast, a whole bunch of articles, and social links at the bottom of those pages. Come find me on LinkedIn and YouTube especially. Those are the places where I tend to hang out. So thank you so much to everybody for your company today. I realize we did start a little bit late due to a technical hiccup. I don't know. Like I said, for all we know, mercury might be in the microwave, as the kids say. But yes, it's often a good idea to just try stuff out and see how you go. But that's the thing about live. You kind of need to roll with the punches. So Said's writing, I used to have my OBS set up to 1440p canvas and record in the same. I do it for high quality, knowing YouTube compresses the video, but I'm wondering if I'm just wasting resources. This is an interesting one because in some ways, I feel it's pretty subjective, and I know people that will tell you that they won't watch your stream unless it's in 4K, which I don't personally have a problem with. And I guess in the past, I often did a raw recording of this show directly in camera. and I think it was like 20 gigabytes per hour of footage or something insane like that. And there's definitely a point of diminishing returns. So I don't know. I mean, if you're worried about that, and it depends on how much hard disk space you've got and what your backup system looks like as well. There's all kinds of factors in there, but just try it and see if you're happy enough with what you're getting.
Yeah, I mean, I I set my canvases to 1080, and then typically I actually stream my output canvas at 720, but my recording locally is still 1080. And then a much higher bit rate.
And Insomnia Doodles writes, I refuse to watch any streams unless I can visibly see all of their pores. Yeah, it's funny. That was honestly my reaction when somebody suggested getting a really good quality camera. I'm like,
yeah,
no, I just want to smear Vaseline all over the lens. Like anything that that blurs the footage would be better than nothing. But anyway, all right. Hello, Stefan, who's joining us as well. Great to have your company today. We are kind of wrapping up now. We did start a little bit late today due to some technical issues. But again, thank you so much for your company today. Don't forget to, let me see if this button works. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you happen to be watching this. And we are potentially going out to all of the places, so whatever that looks like on the platform you're watching on would be wonderful. But essentially, join us next week. Let us know if there are particular things you'd like us to cover in future shows. We'd love to hear from you. But until then, have a great week, have a great weekend, and we will talk to you again very, very soon.